Disclaimer: this video contains major spoilers for the video games Undertale and Deltarune. If you haven't played Undertale and Deltarune, go play them now. Deltarune's completely free and both are well worth your time. This is also my first long-form video. If you enjoy it, please like, comment, and subscribe to show your support. Spamton v. Spamton Character Analysis. Who is Spamton? Spamton is the funny yet creepy secret boss of Chapter 2. For completeness sake, I'm going to summarize his character and backstory to refresh you on the basics. If you would like to skip this section, go to this timestamp. Let's paint the picture. Near the end of Chapter 2, the car that you're driving gets stopped by a wave of cars, and Queen sends Chris to turn on the traffic light that's on the other side of the cars. It's the alleyway to get to the other side. In that alleyway, Spamton pops out of a dumpster and starts talking to himself. Then he notices Chris and starts incoherently talking to him about something called hyperlink block. He wants it, and he thinks Chris wants it too. Keep this fact in the back of your mind, it's important later. Then you have to fight him. To beat him, you have to decipher his cryptic dialogue and choose between deal or no deal. If you choose right, then you get closer to sparing him. However, the final deal, to take him up on his offer for hyperlink block, is your choice. For the sake of this video, let's assume you chose deal on that final option. The battle ends and he tells you to meet him in the garbage zone, an area that you went through before. To the garbage zone. The door that was previously locked is now unlocked, and it leads into Spamton's shop. Once inside Spamton's shop, he asks you to go into the basement of Quinn's mansion to retrieve a special item called the empty disc for him. Humanoid machine. Inside that machine is the empty disc. Empty disc, he downloads himself into it, and it becomes the loaded disc into the machine. Surely nothing unpleasant can come from this, right? Both you and Chris just got tricked by Spamton into giving him a new body. He tries to kill Chris, but then Susie and Rowsley come to the rescue. The Fun Gang has an epic battle against Spamton, where he cuts strings that are tying his body to the ceiling, like puppet strings. When you cut the last string, Spamton falls to the ground. Black, and the Fun Gang is standing around Spamton, who's connected to the ceiling by vines. He says some more cryptic things, specifically about being a puppet, but without the strange speech pattern. He supposedly dies shortly after, giving you an item depending on if you killed or spared him, and a shadow crystal. It is implied that Spamton is still alive as the item. Chris is, understandably, pretty freaked out by this whole thing. They express this distress when the Fun Gang is leaving Queen's basement. There are two dialogue options in this situation. If you choose to say that you're okay, then Chris will have a strange smile. If you choose to say that you're not okay, then Chris will straight up yell it. I haven't mentioned yet. Spamton was an Addison, a computer program that was designed to sell products through advertisements. If you go back to the garbage zone after the Spamton Neo fight, you can find the other Addisons standing with their backs to you, telling Spamton's story. This is an approximation of what the Addisons say about him. If you want to know exactly what they say, there's a link in the description. Spamton was an Addison, a computer program that was designed to sell products through advertisements. He was the same as the others, but with one key difference. Spamton didn't make a lot of money through his ads. In fact, he didn't make any money at all. He'd always wanted to make it big, but he started to get desperate at that time. He started looking for any way to get more recognition. But one day, he made a phone call and found a person who was able to help him. Soon, his popularity skyrocketed. He was on the phone with that person all the time. He got a room in Queen's Mansion. He was living his best life. But then his friends started to get jealous. All of the other Addisons left him eventually. And then that person stopped talking to Spamton. His sales crashed back down to earth, and everything that the person had provided him was gone. Spamton was about to be evicted from Queen's Mansion. The day of the eviction, one of the other Addisons went inside his room in Queen's Mansion and found that he wasn't there. There was only a phone hanging off the handle, and when they put the receiver to their ear, there was only garbage noise. If you make a call on Chris's phone in the dark room, you hear the same sound that plays in Entry 17, a secret room in Undertale that can only be accessed by hacking into the game's files. The game describes that sound in the same way, as garbage noise. On a bit of a tangent about W.D. Gaster. I know he's been talked about to death, but he's important to the plot and everything ultimately circles back to him. We learned some things about him from the Goners in Undertale. He created the core, who was the previous royal scientist before Alphys, and he fell into his creation, which is usually presumed to be the core. Entry 17 is heavily connected to Gaster, as it's written in his speaking style. Okay, Gaster tangent over. For Spamton, it's important because this proves that the person who helped Spamton become famous was W.D. Gaster. See, Gaster has a history of telling certain Darkners the truth that their world is a video game. These Darkners then go on to become secret bosses. There are currently 2 secret bosses, one for each chapter, Jevil and Spamton. Jevil thought that if nothing he did matters, then he can do anything without any consequences. Spamton thought he would never be truly free until he became a big shot and went to the light world. Pivotal role in the Weird Route of Deltarune. If you don't know what the Weird Route is, it's basically an alternate route of Chapter 2, where you force Noelle to freeze enemies and puzzles, eventually culminating in freezing Birdly in an ice crystal. But I have to emphasize that this is not a normal Deltarune route. Heck, the Weird Route was only found because of data miners searching through Deltarune's code. Anyways, to freeze Birdly, you have to cast a spell called Snowgrave, which is why a big portion of the community calls it the Snowgrave route. This spell requires 200% TP to be cast, which is impossible to obtain as the max amount of TP is 100%. But you can go to the secret moss room and find Spamton in a dumpster there. If you've frozen all the enemies in Cyber City, he'll give you a special ring for Noelle called the Thorn Ring. In battle, the Thorn Ring reduces Noelle's HP to 55, but halves the amount of TP required for all of her spells. This makes the Snowgrave spell possible to cast in the Burly fight, allowing you to freeze him. Noelle decides this has gone far enough, and leaves the party of her own accord. You go to Queen's Mansion and eventually go to the top. Instead of fighting Queen, you fight Spamton Neil. And instead of fighting him with the rest of the party, you'll have to fight him alone. Chris calls out for their friends one by one, but none of them respond. Eventually, you have to call Noelle's name, and then she freezes Spamton Neil to death. Which gives an interesting tidbit of lore about the machine that Spamton used for his Neoform. Turns out Swatch helped a Lightner create it. That Lightner filled it with their hopes and dreams, thus creating the shadow crystal inside of it too. Swatch is actually a digital art program in the light world. So what actually happened is that a Lightner went to the computer lab, turned on a computer, and drew something using the program. The Spamton Neophyte takes a lot of inspiration from Metaton Neo in Undertale, which is the form that Metaton takes in the No Mercy route of Undertale. Because of this, it's assumed that Metaton created the drawing, but not the Metaton we know. Alphys never became the royal scientist in Deltarune, so Metaton never got his robot body. So we can infer that Mettaton drew his ideal body using the program. That's why it's filled with its hopes and dreams, and why it made Spamton so powerful. It's very clear that Spamton was a puppet, both figuratively and literally. He never actually knew how to be successful. He just got lucky because Gasser helped him. And when that luck ran out, everything came crashing down. Because after all, what is a puppet without its strings?